How's it going, guys? I am Folkerman, your local brick build historian, with another episode of Brick Build History. Today we're taking a look at Brickmania's F-35 Lightning II, the variant C. This is an aircraft that I've actually seen quite a few times. I haven't personally worked on it, but I've seen it quite a few times within the past 2 years or so. So I'm quite familiar with this aircraft, well, from a distance. So let's go ahead and take a look at this kit and go into the very brief history that it currently has. So, of course, the first thing I always start with is the box. So you have the 3/4 profile shot in color here. You have the Lockheed-Martin logo on the bottom because this is licensed. Original design by Cody. And you have the F-35 Lightning II variant C, which is important, which I'll get to later. Stealth multi-role fighter contains 1,126 Lego elements and one custom minifig. You have the manufacturing plate here with all the same information. BKM kit 8014, skill level 4 out of 5, and I have number 66. So you Star Wars fans, shudder away. And then a monochromatic image on the back here with a half frontal view of the F-35 with the wing folded down. Another Lockheed Martin just for safety. And here's the kit. So the F-35 is a very weird aircraft to try to get right, and looking at it, it looks really, really good for what the F-35 is. Really the hard part is getting this nose section going back into here and making it all flush and look good, which I think Cody did a really good job with that because it's got a lot of weird angles to it. You have the intakes here. They're relatively small for an aircraft like this, so it looks kind of out of place in all honesty. But whenever you look at it in the back, it's only got one engine, so can't really blame him there. This is also a very weird engine to hold, or very weird aircraft to hold. But you have a nose landing gear here. You have the sensor pod down here, which whenever the pilot looks down, he can kind of see through his helmet, if that makes any sense. It's a very weird technology I don't fully understand myself. Then you have the landing gear. I put the little light on there because there's a little light and a catapult launch bar can't really fit, so I was like, screw it. But in order to put this nose gear away, you have to take it out of this hole here and stuff it in the compartment back there. Excuse me. And then you close these landing gear doors. But that's probably the only true non-canon thing about this, is because usually there's a drag brace back here and it connects over here and then it comes up, but only so much you can do with Lego. And then over here you have the weapon bays, the internal weapon bays. Crap. As well as the landing gear doors, if I can remember how these open. I'm just making a fool of myself. It's been a while since I opened this. Alright, so the weapon bays open up like that. And you have a AMRAM in there. No, the real life one has a total of 4 stations with these internal weapons bays. You have 2 internal and 2 external, and the internal ones do hold the AMRAMs, as you can see here. The AMRAM is a advanced medium range air-to-air missile, but basically it opens up and then it shoots out, then quickly closes. The landing gear well, I have trouble with the landing gear doors right now, but I think you, if I remember, you fold it up and then it goes. Kind of like the real life landing gear, but I like to keep it out so that I can mess with it. Over here you have the tail hook, which comes out like this. And since it's basically impossible to do any doors, you just have to take it out, flip it around, and then go like this. So because this is the carrier variant, this tail hook is extremely beefy because it's supposed to be. So whenever it lands, it grabs the wire and then it goes full throttle and hooks onto there. So it's a very, very sturdy resting hook, which is appropriate. Very nice use of that part though. Never would have thought about using that. And then it just tucks away right there. You have the exhaust for the engine with the variable exhaust nozzles on the back here. Flip it around and you have stabilators, which are stabilizers and elevators put together. You have the vertical stabilizers with no surface on it at all. You have the folding wing, because it's the C variant, with these trailing edge flaps here. The ailerons are not movable and the leading edge flaps don't move either. On the top here, you have some antennas. You have the danger triangle, as I've mentioned on my F-18. You have a star and bar there. NJ, which is the CAG. They probably looked at VFA 125, because I think that's what their CAG is. That's a carrier air group or carrier wing. It's just a symbol for saying where they belong. The canopy opens forward just like the real life thing, and you have a nice little minifigure inside with an actual standard Lego helmet. And then you have his seat and gauges in there, and that's really all there is. You have the intake triangles here saying don't get sucked in. You have the stars and bars there, and that's the basic kit. Really, I'm gonna be honest, the F-35 in real life, not my favorite aircraft. In fact, especially the C variant, I absolutely hate. I think it's useless. But in Lego, I like it. It's a very nice looking aircraft, especially whenever you have it up like I do with the F-22 beside it and the Su-27. So having these three big modern aircraft right next to each other is really awesome. And you know, it's not enough to have me change my opinion that the F-35 overall sucks, but it does look really cool, and I'm really happy to have it. And hopefully sometime I can make an A variant, or I can get an A variant and the B variant, just so I can look at them. But until then, I have the C. And with that, let's go into the history. So the Lightning II, is built by Lockheed-Martin, originated from their also famous Skunk Works. The Skunk Works has produced many aircraft as like the SR-71, the P-38 original Lightning, the U-2 Dragon Lady, the F-22, and many, many other really cool and interesting aircraft. But in 2001, the X-35, which is the predecessor of the F-35, would beat Boeing's very ugly X-32 in what would be known as the Joint Strike Fighter program. This was basically a program funded by mostly the United States, the United Kingdom, Italy, Australia, Canada, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, and formerly Turkey, to have a aircraft for all these countries so that they all share the same aircraft, so that in case of you attack one, you're attacking all situation, whenever we're doing joint operations, everyone has the same aircraft with the same parts, so that you can interchange between the countries and their aircraft. Sounds really good on paper, and probably would work well in practice, but we haven't had the chance to have that yet. So, by the way, if you ever get a look at Boeing's X-32, it is one ugly aircraft. It looks really cool, in all honesty, but it's got like a big intake on the belly. It's kind of like it's got a hoo 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 kind of laugh. It's actually pretty funny. But onto the C model of the F-35. The C model is the last model to be introduced in February of 2019, and it's only being utilized by the United States Navy, mostly because we're the only ones who could utilize it. The C model is specifically used for carrier assist, or for catapult assist carrier takeoff and landing, meaning that of the two countries that have catapult assisted carriers, being the United States and France, only one country really cares for it, being the United States. France has their Dassault Rafale, and even though it's not stealth, honestly, stealth is not really that needed in a carrier-based aircraft, in my personal opinion, but I don't think the French are really going to buy F-35s, especially since Rafale is relatively new and they're spending most of their money on that. I'll go into my quarrels about the F-35 later. Currently, there are only 610 F-35s as of right now, at the end of January 2021, of all three variants. The A variant is used by the United States Air Force, and it's being shipped off to like Norway, the Dutch, and Israel, and all that. The B variant being probably the most famous and the one everyone would love to fly, which is the VTOL to replace the Harrier, and the C variant to basically replace the FA-18, which is honestly a big mistake in my personal opinion. So the F-35 is based around stealth. Its weird shape, its paint, which is kind of, it's Lego, so you can't really have radar absorbent paint in Lego, but the paint and the shape of it is perfect to minimize the radar cross section. If you don't understand what radar cross section means, it means that instead of seeing a like 50-foot long aircraft, you only see like 2 feet long, so that people would think like, oh, it's not really, like, that can't be a fighter, it's too small, and then suddenly you're getting hit by a 2,000-pound bomb. There are 2 internal weapon bays, as I showed you on the bottom there, with a total of 4 weapon stations on the internal. The outboard weapon stations, which means that the ones closest to the wings here, can carry up to 2,500 pounds of ordnance, and using JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or LJDAMs, JDAMs with a laser. JSOW, the Joint Standoff Weapon, which is like, it drops down and then it has these wings that deploy and it glides like up to 3 miles to its target, which is really cool. Small diameter bombs and anti-tank missiles. The inboard ones, which is the ones that actually have the ordnance in this aircraft, can carry AIM-120 AMRAAMs, Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missiles. Now, although I have not personally seen it, and I don't think I've seen any pictures of it, the F-35 can carry up to 6 external stations, 1 on each wingtip and 2 under each wing. The ones on the wingtips are used for AIM-9X Sidewinders, which, if you really want to, I guess you could make a wingtip launcher and build a Brickmania AIM-9 and slap it on there if you want. And then the outboard station carries 2,500 pounds of ordnance, and the inboard station carries 5,000 pounds of ordnance. Now, the only time they'll ever use these external pylons is if they're in a non-stealth mission, meaning that they don't really need to be, super sneaky. And it's used for things that cannot be used on the internal pylons. Hence, like bigger bombs or missiles, external fuel tanks, which I don't remember seeing if it's possible to have that. And then a gun pod, since this doesn't have a internal gun in it, and the Navy loves their guns, so Lockheed-Martin made a gun pod called the Terma A/S. It's a multi-mission pod that will carry a GAU Tech 22A 25mm rotary cannon, so basically a Gatling gun that's 25mm with 220 rounds. Talk about compensation. It can also be fitted with what's called the Sidekick, which is currently in production right now, as I believe, or they're at least trying to produce it, to allow 2 more AMRAAMs in the internal bays, which basically you take the outboard pylons on the internal here, and you can allow 2 more AMRAAMs, 1 on each side. There's also a lot of other weapon integration things. They're trying to integrate the AGM-88 HARM/ARGM high-speed anti-radiation missile for the internal bays. Don't really think it would work, but good on the effort. And just a lot of other various weapon systems that just spring up, and they're like, oh, let's put that on the F-35. Personally, I don't think it will work, but an aircraft designer can dream. Now, for me, being Navy oriented and thinking about naval aircraft, this is the part that really bothers me, and that is the single Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine. Notice I said single. The last time we had a single aircraft engine on naval carrier decks was probably the A7, and that thing didn't really last too long. Maybe for maybe 10 years? But, I mean, it's either the A7 or the F8. It's kind of hard to tell. They both look very similar. But the thing is, the Navy has used single-engine aircraft before, like the A4, the A7, the F8. Well, whenever talking about jet aircraft. But if the engine, say, gets blown out with foreign object damage or FOD, guess what? You don't have a backup plan, so you're just going to shoot right up. Now, the Pratt & Whitney F-135 is derived from the Pratt & Whitney F-119, which is used in the F-22, which has 2 of them. And it's a low bypass augmented turbofan. If you don't know what that means, basically it's a jet engine which has air go around it, but the ratio is smaller between the air going through the jet engine and the air going around the jet engine, hence the low bypass. The augmented part, I honestly don't even know what that means. But so basically what they did is they took the F-119 from the F-22, made it a larger fan for a higher bypass ratio for more fuel efficiency at subsonic speeds. The downside is it goes slower than the F-22. But, oh well. Higher fuel efficiency, you go slower. It's just like your car. If you put in eco mode, you go slow. Now, the C model has these larger folding wings. The A and B models, their wings actually go about to where the wing fold is. But the C model has larger wings that fold. And you may be wondering, well, why didn't they just keep the normal wing length if it's basically you just add this second part of the wing? And that's because whenever doing carrier operations, the aircraft has to land at lower speeds, well, or at least coming at an approach at lower speeds. So you need a lot more wing surface area to allow more lift to allow the aircraft to fly slower without stalling out. Now, of course, the large wings of the F-35 are, or at least of the C model, are a give and take situation. Because, yes, you can go slower, but the G limits of the aircraft are severely reduced. Now, it's not as bad as the B model. I believe the B model has a rate of 5 Gs, and this is 7.5 Gs, but the A model can go up to 9 Gs. So, give and take. Not only that, but the controlled surface areas of the F-35C are also larger. Again, low speed means that you need bigger surface areas to allow for the aircraft to be more controllable at low speeds. Although, once again, give and take. So, the F-35C is honestly my least favorite version of the F-35, in my personal opinion. Not only does the United States only have the market for it, because the only other one, France, doesn't really need it, but it's trying to replace the F-30 or the F-18, which it definitely doesn't even compare to. The internal fuel load of the F-35 is 19,750 pounds of fuel. If you don't know, we measure fuel in pounds, basically as a weight and balance kind of thing. And it has about 1,200 nautical miles of range. It does have a IFR probe, in-flight refueling probe, to allow it to refuel in the air. And it can reach a speed of 1.6, Mach 1.6 for its top speed, registered top speed. Now, this is more what you might call complaining session of the F-35. And I'm not alone in this school of thought. So the F-35, at least especially with the C model, is a very expensive and very unnecessary aircraft in my personal opinion, and the opinion of a lot of others. Not only does it cost a lot to basically try to replace an aircraft that is already still doing its job perfectly fine, but it's not really going to be able to advance that past that aircraft. What I'm talking about is the fact that the F-18 is really good at being a jack of all trades, which is the reason why it replaced both the fighter and the ground attack aircraft at once. Sure, the F-18 might not be the best fighter against purebred fighters, and it's not the best at bombing like pure ground attack aircraft, but it does good enough at both to be viable. Not only that, but the F-18 has so many different purposes. Like, they just turned it into an electronic attack aircraft with the Growler, however many, 10 years ago. I don't really see the F-35 replacing that at all. Not only that, but the F-18 also does carrier-based tanking, meaning that you put a bunch of drop tanks on it and then a aerial refueling pod in the belly, and it takes off from the carrier and it can refuel other carrier-based airplanes so that they don't run out of fuel. Well, guess what you can't do with an F-35? In-flight refueling. Now, I know that Lockheed is also producing, I think they're calling it the Stingray, which is like an unmanned drone for tanks, for aircraft refueling and tanking, but it just looks stupid, in all honesty, in my opinion. But I'm just a man who works on airplanes, and maybe I have a bias towards the F-18 because that's what I've been working on for the past 6 years. But I just don't see the F-35 being that much better than the F-18 to warrant its full replacement. Now, I do agree the fact that the two-seater version of the F-18 is absolutely pointless. You might as well just have single-seaters. But there's just so much that the F-18 does better and actually does more of than the F-35 that I think the F-35 just doesn't warrant full on replacing the F-18. Now, a lot of people would say that, yes, the F-18 is old. It's a 1980s design, and then the most recent upgrade, the E and F version, came out in the 2000s. That I understand. It's starting to get old, and these are supposed to last until 2070. It's just so much about the F-35 that I just don't like that will make me probably never like it. Kind of like the old guys in the Navy who worked on Tomcats and will always say that the Tomcat is better. I'm always going to say the F-18 is better than the F-35. But with that said, thank you a lot for getting me to 160 subs, because that is like 159 more than I thought I would ever get. So make sure you keep on telling your friends, those who are interested in aircraft like this and the history and development behind them. Make sure you leave a like if you like the video, and comment me anything you want to, if I forgot something or if I messed up in something and you wanted to know more or correct me, go ahead, put it in the comments. I've been corrected many times, and I'm probably going to have to make a video of all the things I messed up. And make sure you comment me what you want to see, because I mean, I still have a list of things I want to do. The only reason I'm putting this one out earlier is because I just saw these on the carrier, and I kind of remembered, oh, I should do the F-35. So here you go. I know these are not available on the website right now, so you know, maybe they'll bring it back, especially since they're doing a more modern month in February, so it's possible for a restock. Who knows? But I've been rambling on for too long. I've been Folkerman, and let's continue to build history.